Sales development rep outsourcing. Does it work? Why SDR outsourcing is suddenly a serious option. If you run a B2B sales org, you've probably wondered whether sales development rep outsourcing creates real pipeline or just adds noise to your calendar. It's a fair question, especially when you're accountable for revenue, not activity. The truth is that outsourced SDR programs can work extremely well, but only when you treat them like a revenue motion, not a shortcut. The in-house model has gotten harder to justify on cost and stability. A typical fully loaded SDR, salary, benefits, tools, management, and overhead, often lands around $110,000 to $150,000 per year, and that's before you factor in the opportunity cost of constant recruiting. At the same time, average SDR tenure is roughly 14 months, and 2024 turnover hovered near 65%, which makes build it internally a recurring rebuild. That's why SDR outsourcing has gone mainstream. Roughly 38% of B2B SaaS companies now outsource part or all of their SDR function, and many do it to lower customer acquisition costs by 25 to 40% when the program is run correctly. The goal isn't to outsource accountability, it's to make pipeline creation more predictable and less fragile. What outsourced SDR services actually include, and what they don't. Outsourced SDR can mean anything from low-cost appointment setting to a fully managed sales development agency running research, messaging, and multi-channel prospecting. In a modern outsourced sales team, SDRs typically handle account research, list-building services, cold email agency execution, LinkedIn outreach services, and calling, then qualify and book meetings on AE calendars. The best partners operate like an extension of your team inside your systems, not a black box vendor that sends you a spreadsheet once a week. The work itself has also changed. Multi-channel outbound, email plus phone plus LinkedIn, can boost engagement by 287% versus single-channel outreach, which is why most credible SDR agencies run coordinated sequences instead of just dial more. Practically, that means a strong cold calling agency should also be competent in cold email, data enrichment, and workflow design, not just cold callers making high-volume dials. Just as important, SDR outsourcing is not deal closing, and it's not a fix for a broken value proposition. If your offer, targeting, or positioning is off, scaling activity through sales outsourcing simply burns through your total addressable market faster. Outsourcing works when you already have at least one repeatable motion, and you want a B2B sales agency to help you scale it with tighter economics and faster execution. Start with the math: in-house cost versus outsourced benchmarks. Before you hire SDRs internally or sign a contract with an outbound sales agency, model your baseline in the same unit: cost per attended qualified meeting and cost per qualified opportunity. Looking only at base salary or a vendor's price per meeting hides the real story. Once you include benefits, tools, management time, ramp, and replacement churn, an in-house SDR can be materially more expensive than it appears. Benchmarks like these don't guarantee your exact outcome, but they explain why outsourced B2B sales keeps growing. The unit economics can be 30 to 50% better when quality is controlled. Zooming out, broader outsourcing trends support the shift. 80% of executives plan to maintain or increase outsourcing investment, and about 50% already use third parties for front office functions like sales and marketing. The market is moving this way because the numbers often work. The practical takeaway is simple: don't decide based on headcount preferences. Decide based on throughput, ramp time, and the true cost to produce pipeline. When we evaluate a sales outsourcing engagement at SalesHive, we align the plan to measurable funnel outputs, show rate, sequel rate, pipeline created, because meetings booked alone is too easy to game. Where outsourcing works best: speed, experiments, and hybrid coverage. SDR outsourcing tends to outperform when you need pipeline faster than you can hire and ramp internally. Companies that outsource top-of-funnel work can ramp outreach roughly 3 times faster than teams relying only on in-house capacity, largely because trained reps, processes, and tooling are already in place. If you're trying to hit a quarter, speed to output matters as much as cost per meeting. It's also one of the cleanest ways to de-risk new markets and new plays. Instead of hiring a full internal pod for a new vertical or geography, run a 90-day outsourced pilot with a crisp ICP, clear meeting definition, and success metrics tied to SQLs and pipeline dollars. You get message market learning and early pipeline without distracting your internal team or overcommitting to headcount. Most organizations land on a hybrid model rather than an either-or decision. Use an outsourced sales team for scalable, net new outbound, cold calling services, cold email, and list building services, while internal SDRs and AEs focus on warm inbound, expansion, and strategic accounts. The hybrid approach works when swim lanes are explicit and reporting is shared, so your teams aren't stepping on each other's territories. Outsourcing works when you treat the SDR function like a measurable revenue system, aligned on ICP, trained on messaging, and accountable to pipeline, not just booked calls. Implementation that doesn't fail: onboarding, access, and operating rhythm. Most outsourced SDR failures aren't caused by a lack of effort. They're caused by weak onboarding and poor integration. One 2024 Gartner-cited analysis found 67% of outsourced SDR failures traced back to inadequate training and integration in the first 60 days. If you wouldn't throw a brand new internal SDR into production without a playbook, you can't expect an external team to succeed with less. Treat your outsourced SDR pod like new hires and give them the assets that actually create quality. ICP documentation, persona notes, disqualifiers, competitive context, objection handling, and examples of great discovery calls. Give them access to call recordings and the why behind wins and losses, not just a product one-pager. This is how you protect your brand while scaling B2B cold calling and outbound messaging through a partner. Operationally, insist on direct CRM access, shared dashboards, and a weekly joint stand-up with AEs. Review calendars, listen to a few calls, tighten qualification, and close the loop on outcomes: show rate, SQL conversion, pipeline created. At SalesHive, we log activity directly into the client CRM so the program is transparent and improvable, because the fastest way to waste money is running sales development in a black box. Common outsourcing mistakes and how to avoid them. The most common mistake is treating an SDR agency as plug-and-play. Without a precise ICP, messaging guardrails, and an AE-approved meeting definition, reps default to generic outreach, and you end up paying for meetings your closers can't convert. The fix is straightforward. Document qualification criteria, review scripts and templates before launch, and run call QA early so you correct drift before it becomes your reputation in market. Another failure mode is optimizing for the lowest headline price per meeting, especially with pay-per-appointment lead generation models. Ultra-low pricing can create perverse incentives: over-automation, loose qualification, and book anything that breathes, which tanks close rates and can damage your domain and brand. A better approach is to evaluate partners on cost per qualified opportunity and pipeline generated, then add performance bonuses tied to SQLs or pipeline rather than raw meeting volume. Finally, Outsourcing can break down when in-house and external teams work different territories or different ICPs. Account overlap causes double touching, confused prospects, and internal finger-pointing about sourcing credit. Avoid it by designing clean swim lanes, segment, geo, or play, documenting rules of engagement, and running one unified playbook so your cold calling team and your internal team sound like the same company. How to measure ROI: pipeline quality, not vanity metrics. If your only KPI is meetings booked, any provider can hit it, often by lowering the bar until it's meaningless. The metrics that actually protect ROI are downstream: show rate, SQL rate, opportunity creation rate, and pipeline dollars influenced. When you measure the same funnel stages for your in-house team and your outsourced SDR program, the comparison becomes objective instead of emotional. A simple framework is to start with cost per attended qualified meeting. Then track how those meetings behave. What percentage become opportunities? What percentage progress? And what percentage close? If outsourced performance matches in-house conversion rates while delivering a lower and more predictable cost per meeting, for example, 357 to 500 versus 821 to 1150, the program is working even before you reach perfect volume. This also prevents pipeline theater because the vendor is accountable to real outcomes. Optimization should be continuous, not a one-time setup. Run A/B tests on messaging by persona, adjust sequences by channel, and review call snippets weekly to sharpen talk tracks. Most high-performing cold calling companies win because they iterate faster, not because they found a magical script. And that's exactly how you should run an outsourced B2B sales outsourcing motion. What changes in 2025 plus? AI, specialization, and the next steps to take. AI has changed the baseline expectations for both internal teams and outsourced sales agencies. Strong providers use AI for research, personalization, sequencing optimization, and quality control, which can increase output per rep without sacrificing relevance. But tooling alone isn't the advantage. The advantage is operational maturity. A partner that runs these systems all day across many programs will usually iterate faster than a single in-house team learning by trial and error. Your next steps should be practical and staged. First, calculate your fully loaded SDR cost and current cost per attended qualified meeting. Second, define a crisp ICP and qualification criteria your AEs will defend. Third, design a 90-day pilot with success metrics tied to pipeline. If you're vetting a B2B sales agency, score them on ICP experience, data approach, multi-channel capability, B2B cold calling services plus cold email, reporting transparency, and how they handle onboarding, not just on price. This is the model we built at SalesHive, a dedicated SDR pod that operates inside your CRM with multi-channel outreach, supported by AI-driven personalization through our platform. Since 2016, we've helped more than 1,500 B2B companies book over 100,000 sales meetings by combining cold calling, email outreach, and list building under one roof. Whether you work with us or another sales development agency, the bar is the same: clear alignment, measurable pipeline impact, and a hybrid operating rhythm that scales without breaking quality.